not so long ago in a supermarket. I saw some splendid twins in a pram, and I went up to admire them. And as I grew closer, their heads seemed, their immense, resplendent, shining heads seemed a little odd to me, a little green. And then I realized that they were a couple of honeydew melons in a shopping cart, and I wondered if I were going the same way as Dr. P. I mean, I think something of the sort happens with all of us.
Neurology's favorite term is deficit. The word denotes impairment or incapacity of neurological function. Loss of language, memory, vision, dexterity, identity, and a myriad of other lacks and losses of specific functions. For all these dysfunctions, we have privative words of every sort. Aphonia, aphemia, aphasia, alexia, apraxia, amnesia, agnosia, ataxia. A word for every specific neural or mental function of which patients may find themselves deprived. Deficit. Loss. Such language tells us nothing about an individual's history. It conveys nothing of the person and the reality of facing disease. To restore the human subject at the center, we must deepen a case history to a narrative or tale. Only then do we have a patient in relation to disease, a who as well as a what.
In some sense, when one sees a patient, one is confronting them with the depth of their disorder, and I think it mustn't be too sudden or it can be overwhelming. I think you need to show them their strengths at the same time as their deficits.
Dr. P was a musician of distinction, well known for many years as a singer and then at the local school of music as a teacher. It was here, in relation to his students, that certain strange problems were first observed. Sometimes a student would present himself and Dr. P would not recognize him, or specifically would not recognize his face. The moment the student spoke, he would be recognized by his voice. Such incidents multiplied, causing embarrassment, perplexity, fear, and sometimes comedy. For not only did Dr. P increasingly fail to see faces, but he saw faces where there were no faces to see.
Street sound, distant train, a noise symphony,
the music of the city,
the urban forest,
morte
What a tooting and screeching and blaring of horn!
Da tanzt den Hochzeitsreigen, die Herz aller Liebster mein.
Now, then, what is the matter?
Nothing
He's absolutely
that
healthy.
I know of.
He's as fit as a
Still
pig.
performing,
He's always in good
Why still
form. He's perfectly normal.
Then why are we here?
that's what I asked them. Why send me when
Yes, why
nothing
send
is
me?
the matter?
They tested
And they
his eyes.
nothing's wrong.
He says perfectly well.
Just that
But we diabetes,
It's just
high
that-
blood pressure,
thing thought that
could damage.
my eyesight.
But you can see there's no
Then why are we here?
Well, they said
He said I'm not
nothing's wrong with my eyes. The small problem with the visual part of my brain. Could see a neurologist.
I think he goes into the studio to record.
And then people say
There's nothing wrong in that.
silly mistake.
Who doesn't make mistakes on occasion?
Why I'm here.
No cause to worry. Excuse us. Perfume in us. Just a routine test.
When I saw him for the first time, he seemed very full conversationally. And when we talked about things in general, I thought at first there was nothing the matter. But then this terrible sort of desiccation and abstractness of visuality became apparent.
His silly mistakes are like practical jokes, always up to stars. With his students pretending this one was that one and one the other. Late for the concert, at last on the way, doesn't realize the directions of a talking meter. It's about silence sounding, but he's around the shoulder of a pillar box.
He came to the wrong conclusions. Now, he couldn't be unaware of this because he was an intelligent man, and he continually sort of collided with his own mistakes. But why he made these mistakes was puzzling to him because he couldn't directly perceive his what was wrong with his own perception.
Well, his visual acuity's good.
And after the concert,
No problem with spotting a pig,
I flashed at the man of a
except when placed through the land.
as though thanking Schumann.
but again on the left just a little.
But there's nothing the matter.
It's the way he looks out, his gaze to the left, just a trifle abnormal. Can I help?
Help, help what? Help who?
Help you put on your shoes.
Have I forgotten the shoe? The shoe. The shoe. The
Over here to the left, pick it up, put it on.
But then, what? But this is my shoe. Yes, my eyes. But this is my shoe.
No, this is your foot. What did he say? What did he see? That there is your shoe.
I thought that was my foot.
Is he mad? Is he blind? Is this one of his silly mistakes?
One shoe off and the other shoe on. One
Please,
shoe and the
And yet there was something strange, no trace of dementia.
can't be late for his masterclass.
Oh, he faced me as he spoke, yet he looked at me with his ears, not with his eyes. His eyes made sudden sharp fixations, the nose, the right ear, my chin, my left eye. He saw me, no, he scanned me, lips on his radar screen, sought the detail as if not seeing my whole face, but only separate components.
I'm not sure that I normally think too much about how one looks at people, but I was struck by the fact that he wasn't looking at me in quite the right way, so that he would gaze at one's nose, and then perhaps at an eye, or the glasses, and maybe at an ear, and so individual features were being fixated and inventoried and registered in a way which seemed much grosser than what normally happens.
You can see very clearly, but what do you see that interests me?
köstlicher. I see a forest beneath dark blades of grass, a graveyard
Fails to see the whole, only detail.
I see a rocky torch. Is it a syringe or a battle or a tombstone?
He's drawn to a brightness, a color, a shape.
I see a snowflake, a sunflower, not a president.
Only his work sustains.
No dinosaur.
No sense of landscape, only darting detail. Now what do you see?
I see a river, and a little guest house. It has a terrace by the water. People are dining out, shaded beneath their parasols. It's heavenly, but there are clouds come before the storm. Home is emptiness, emptiness home. Is that it then? Session finished. We thank you and await diagnosis. Where's me hat? Oh, my hat, mistake that fooled you all.
Where was his hat? In his hand, in his mind's eye.
He'd mistaken his wife for a hat. I was baffled, astonished, aghast. he'd done rather well, took his leave with the hint of a smile. Did he know was they playing an elaborate joke? Who was examining whom? I could make no sense of what I'd seen in terms of conventional neurology. How could a professional musician, a practicing teacher, mistake his wife for a hand? How does he learn his operatic roles? Can he still read music? What sense does he make of the chains of black lobs strung up on fine lines? Is he suffering from musical alexia? He did not make sense. On the one hand, perfectly preserved. On the other hand, incomprehensibly shattered.
This is a lovely phrenological model in which amativeness and friendship and conjugality have their centers in the brain. In the 1860s, one started to be able to say that language is located here, or at least if there is trouble here, the person will be aphasic and may be unable to use words for expression. With Dr. P, the problems were at the back of the brain and the visual parts of the brain, and in particular, they were on the right side of the brain.
The occipital lobe is concerned mainly with the recognition of sight. The frontal lobe are concerned with emotion, and the temporal lobes are the seat for the speech center. There are specific sites which are concerned with specific functions. Memory, of course, may have a memory of smell, or a memory of taste, or a memory of sight. And so one couldn't identify memory into one area, but of course it would be recognized within several areas of the brain. We think of computers as being complex these days, but of course the brain will put even the largest computer into a very small capacity. It really is such a highly complex organ that it will take many, many generations to even understand the basics of it.
We do have all sorts of computational powers, and we'd be lost without them. But at the same time, there's clearly something more. We have beautiful descriptions of the hardware and the software of the nervous system, but implicitly denies that there is a person within or behind the software. The human isn't fully allowed in a clinic. You test people's reflexes and their sensation. You're testing neural function, but you're not entirely looking at them as a human being. Or there's a danger that you might not. It took me a while to formulate what was going on. I'm a rather slow thinker, but a very tenacious one. And so I suppose I sleep on it or brood on it. I think probably I needed my second visit to him to formulate things properly. There was an unaccountable sort of queerness had been left as residue from the first visit. The term visual agnosia was introduced by Freud when he was in his neurological days in the 1880s and 1890s for patients who could see things precisely but not make sense of them, and who couldn't recognize them and couldn't give any meaning to what they saw. And this seemed to him to show something fundamental about the nature of perception.
I see that the weight of the brain is very light. It just weighs under 1,100 grams, which is much smaller than you'd expect in a normal, healthy, young person, where the weight of the brain might be 1,400 or 1,500 grams. There's obviously been considerable wasting of this brain. If I just remove some of the superficial membranes, you can see that the convolutions of the brain are fairly widely separated. There are quite wide gaps between them. And in a young, healthy brain, one would not have expected quite such wide gaps. With a disease such as Alzheimer's disease, that is precisely what you see, the gradual shrinkage of the brain.
This was by no means evident at the time, because in Alzheimer's disease one expects every brain function to be affected, whereas when I saw him it was really only visual functions which were affected, so that I thought on this basis and on the basis of some other things that it could have been a tumour in the visual parts of the brain. But sometimes Alzheimer's can present purely visually, although I think this wasn't widely known back in '79 when I saw Dr. P.
There were no textbook answers. I had to see him again on his own ground. Not as a patient in a clinic, I needed to watch him cope with the everyday workings of life, observe the man in his natural habitat. Magnificent instrument, the one thing we take from Vienna. How I'd love, would you mind? Will you play and sing?
My husband will sing.
He would play. I'm a bit rusty.
His room where he cans.
I no longer play. My sight breathing strong. I no longer read. Not in your league. Cannot read.
So I'll accompany my
No
husband.
longer read music. gesamte Pracht, es helft kein Strahl in deines Herzens Nacht, das weiß ich längst. Ich rolle nicht, und wenn das Herz auch bricht, ich sah dich ja im Trauma und sag die Nacht in eines Herzens Traume und sah die Schlange, die dir am Herzen verletzt. Ich sah mein Lieb, wie sehr du elend bist. Ich grolle nicht, ich grolle nicht. He still has a perfect ear. His memories unimpaired, perfect tonal and rhythmic discrimination and expression, a wonderful musical cortex, temporal lobes intact. But what of the parietal regions, the fibers, nerves, neurons, the synapses of occipital zones? What of the cytoarchitectonic, the structure, visual processing? How? What does he see? No problem with your voice or your ear. Now it's time for your eyes. What is this?
It's a tetrahedron.
It's a tetrahedron.
And
now this.
Have you seen? It's an autohedron. It's an autohedron.
And this.
And this is a dodecahedron. A dodecahedron. And there's no need of the rest. I'll get the icosahedron as well.
No problem with abstract shapes. But does he see abstract images?
Jack of spades, king of clubs, queen of spades.
Does he see faces or stylized representations? Who do you see?
That funny nose, doesn't gigantic.
And who do you see now?
I know that one, it's really easy. The angle, Havana, it's Winston Churchill cigar.
Who do you, what do you see?
Back, who's mustache?
The darkness, large shapes, no landmarks.
I know the hair,
Does he see people or simply schematic cute memories, patterns etched in his mind and retrieved? How does he read expression, configuration of feeling in motion?
The time, now this must be the news. Let us listen to the headlines. Little
But is it a sport of some kind? Are they wrestling? No, it's boxing. Who's fighting? Who's hitting whom? I don't follow. No, it's a dreadful quiz show. Think of stars. Men from Mars, or maybe it's those men on the moon. No, don't tell me one big step for mankind. Am I warm? Very cold. Try movie stars. Inaudible, the great image has no form. It's gone, gone with the wind. Visually, computer-like, cannot judge how things relate to each other, to himself. What is this? It's a square.
But which one?
It's so flat and so hard.
We just fallen in love.
Please don't tell him. It's a picture.
Of what and whom?
A picture.
He is blind.
St. Stephen's Platz.
He had just fallen in love in Vienna.
Does not recognize. Who do you see?
Myself and my wife.
So who's this?
Why, that's all. Those big teeth, mole on cheek, know him anywhere.
He picks up obvious markers, identikit features. And this quite a likeness.
Bit faded, can't remember.
It's his mother.
It might be my mother. They all look the same.
Don't you recognize me? Don't look at yourself. Nobody that dress with
The pattern, the crisscross, of course. How could I?
And this
of personality, no one there looking out, no person within. In the absence of obvious markers, he was utterly, tragically lost. What is this?
6 inches in length, convoluted dreadful.
But what do you think it is?
With a linear green attachment.
He dwells within schema, he's lost touch with the concrete world.
No simple symmetry.
Robotic description, pics of the sapient.
This might be divine,
Might be.
in fluorescence of love. Would it be
Smell it.
olfactory algebra mathematical models?
When one gave him a rose, for example, which we immediately see as a rose, one thinks that a rose is a rose is a rose. But for him, it was taken. He took it as a morphologist would take a specimen and examined it, and he called it a convoluted red object with a linear green attachment. But he didn't behold it as a rose. And it was only when one put it under his nose that, that this feeling of, that his reality suddenly came in.
Now, what is this?
A continuous surface that is softly enfolded, that is softly enfolded on itself.
You are merely describing it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how deep?
I want to know what it is.
A container.
Containing what?
Its contents.
Which are what?
40 pages, precisely, there's nothing there.
Would you put something in it?
Points of 5 different sizes.
Lifeless abstraction. Does it not look familiar? Does part of your body feel drawn to explore?
To put in, to insert, to put out.
Each eye would fall as a glove, as going with a hand, but he's lost in a maze of inanimate schemata. Has he no visual sense? Has he no visual
My God, it's a glove.
Well done. Now let's see how you recall visual schema.
Well, let's play test. I can no longer distinguish the pieces. Pawn to king 4,
Pawn to king 4,
knight to queen, bishop 3,
knight to queen, bishop 3.
pawn to bishop 4,
Pawn takes pawn,
pawn to queen 4,
queen to rook 5, check.
king 2,
Pawn to queen 4,
pawn takes pawn,
bishop to knight 5, check.
knight to bishop 3,
Castle,
pawn takes knight,
bishop to queens, bishop 4,
pawn takes pawn, check,
king to knight 1,
knight to knight 5,
knight to bishop 3,
king to queen 3,
queen to rook 4,
king to bishop 3,
bishop takes pawn, check.
queen's knight takes bishop,
Queen to bishop 4, check.
king to knight 3,
Queen to knight 3, check.
bishop to knight 5,
Bishop takes knight,
queen takes bishop,
rook takes knight,
queen to bishop 6,
queen to rook 4,
pawn to bishop 3,
rook to queen 3,
queen to bishop 4,
pawn to knight 4,
king to bishop 2,
you win, I resign.
that's tiny gambit, don't you know it?
His visualization of faces, narrative and drama is impaired. Visualization of schemata is completely unimpaired. But what of descriptive memory? How do you recall the texture, the color, the detail of the city we live in? So talk me down Hope Street. It's a street we both know.
Come on and high up there, the family that argues on that open window. What's more,
What do you see?
the awning, that old man, red brick mansion block, tick-tick-tick-tock, the Bombay, hello Mrs. Singh, flapping washing, high up, chimney pot battlements, a row of townhouses, embalmed in wisteria, psychoanalyst clinics, all coming and going, front gates squeaking, cars starting up.
Where are they, these cars?
If I turn on my right, there are those traffic lights and the parking meters and the screeching of tires and the slamming
What
of
do
doors.
you see?
The columns and the porticos.
Only the right side restaurant, the doorman, the
Revolving doors.
tended to miss things on the left. Both the left side of his visual field and the left side of his body, because of the lesion in the right half of his brain, which controls the left side of the body, though he also had problems with the recognition everywhere in the visual field. So that it wasn't that the one half of people's faces were recognizable, their faces generally were unrecognizable.
Do you think somebody who has this problem with the left field is conscious of the absence of leftness?
No, they're not. It's oddly difficult to, when someone has this left hemifield extinction, if they have it profoundly, when they shave, they may only shave on one side or make up on one side of the face. They won't use their left half. They won't notice anything on the left. You can't draw their attention to anything on the left. And the very word left and the idea of leftness can lose its meaning. And someone like that has really lost half their self, or their self to one side. It's a very, very extraordinary situation. You could probably visualize a dozen chessboards. He was a master player. It sort of staggered me because he had been such a casualty up to that point, and he played an absolutely dazzling game of mental chess, which must certainly involve visualization of a sort. And it had seemed that visualization was the problem. I think the chess game helped define that abstract visualization, like perception of abstract shapes, was not at all involved.
And what did you feel when you showed him those photographs of his family?
Well, I felt a sort of horror and pity and comedy all mixed up, which is, I think, what one often feels with patients. But with some of the things which had been tried beforehand, which have no special reality, like playing cards, or for that matter, like a film on the television, the repercussions of not being able to recognize didn't seem so awful. But when I showed him pictures of his students and his family, and finally himself, and he couldn't recognize it, I thought, my God, this man is in an abyss, deep trouble.
Oliver, on the wall there behind you, there's a painting by Sol LeWitt that resembles a little bit some of the neurologist's kit.
Well, that was very much the sort of thing which Dr. P would have had no trouble with. He I don't know whether he could have given it a name to it. I can't give a name to it, but he would simply have commented on it, so sort of symmetrical 12 quadrangular faces with a hexagon at either end with no difficulty.
There's a way in which the simplicity of that, it seems to me, relates to the sorts of paintings you were talking about of Dr. P's in the case study.
Yes, well, certainly his own paintings, like his own perceptions, became more austere and more geometrical. The early ones had been very rich and naturalistic, and then there was this progressive, I don't know whether you call it impoverishment or clarification or both, but the lines, the abstracts, the signifying features became clearer and clearer. And certainly visually, his world was geometrized to a very considerable extent.
And you suggest a parallel in the writing between the development in his painting and the progress of his pathology.
Yes, his whether I was right to do so or not, I don't know. His wife insisted that this was an artistic development, and it may well have been, but I think it was an artistic development to which he might have been disposed by some physiological change. I described my own uncertainty when I wondered whether they were the realm of neurology and art.
husband's a painter, I see.
At a show every year at the college where he teaches, he was very highly regarded.
Nothing exceptional. An amateur dormer.
Gifted painter as well as gifted singer.
Was a painter, still a singer.
I looked at them curiously, peered at the early work, dated and signed, finely detailed and concrete. A refugee family, mother and child.
He started painting when we lived in Vienna.
Displaced Europeans, uprooted, tragically exiled.
When we were forced to flee to the city, we continued to
The
paint.
grief of survivors, the weeping and sobbing.
But we had
Years later, this vividness waned, faces fractured, natural curves became angular, almost cubist. Then less and less concrete images, more abstract expressionist. But in the most recent paintings, I hardly to say it, painted gesture has degenerated into mere marks, lines without meaning, empty shapes. Random blotches,
Do you not see
the work of a child. I see the advancing pathology, making no sense of the world out here. Perhaps she was partly right. Might not the condition of his eyes condition his sight, stripping it down to see through the gross texture of things to their essence. Perhaps his growth as an artist went hand in hand with his illness, creating original form. No, that wasn't it. In these last works I sensed only chaos, agnosia, the realm of neurology, not art.
tea from China, lovely fragrance, tea from China, lovely fragrance, tea from China, lovely fragrance, tea from China, lovely fragrance.
There was one point during tea where there was a knock at the door, and he was suddenly arrested, and he looked blank, and he obviously didn't recognize the teacup. He didn't recognize anything. He was lost in abstraction, and then the smell of coffee titillated him back into reality as the smell of a rose had before, and he started to drink the coffee, but as he was doing so, there was a sort of humming, and this humming also extended to the eating. He really needed this humming as a counterpoint to drinking, and to eating, and to everything, and this organized him in action, it organized him in space. He really had to set the world to music, otherwise it was unintelligible to him. One ought to say something about Mrs. P, who was a very remarkable woman. She held him together in a very crucial way, and even though she couldn't be recognized visually, she was totally felt as a presence, and he was totally a presence to her. There was this continuous upwelling source of music, which was especially his favorite Schumann. And if he himself didn't provide music, she herself was a musician, and she helped music him through the day.
Tell me, how does he manage? How can he get dressed, or take a bath, or tie a lace? How does he manage?
Each thing in its place to a pattern we both know.
But how do you manage?
Then we'll dress, then we'll bathe, then we'll dine, as if programmed by his dressing songs, bathing songs, eating songs. But when interrupted, he loses his thread, disintegrates, right towards its door.
Well, doctor, you find me an interesting case. Can you tell me what's wrong? What is it I should do?
this was some time ago. And often since then, I've found myself wondering how he apprehended the world. Put myself in his shoes, wore his hat, so to speak, imagined his vision, the strange loss of image, yet preserved musicality. I think that music, for him, took the place of the image. He had no body image, he had body music. And to this inner soundtrack, he moved and he acted fluently, cogently. But when the music stopped, so did he. It turned out that his illness was Alzheimer's, irreversible shrinkage of brain tissue, a form of presenile dementia. Yet, in spite of its gradual advance, Dr. P's inner musical world sustained him in living and teaching for some years. But when, as it will, this tragic degenerative process went its course, rendering him speechless, lacking all bodily control, apparently soulless, demented, and barely alive, music sustained him, found its way through the choked pathways of his mind, massaged his neural decay, fueled his spirit, defined his humanity to the end.